Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Welcome to yet another edition of Cradle webinar series. My name is Surya Mohapatra. I'm your host today for this webinar. As all of you know, Cradle webinar series makes an attempt to dive deeper into different aspects of human life. Through of webinars, we make an attempt to find answers to questions which the humankind has been striving to find. We try to dive deeper into complexities of life. We try to unravel the mysteries of life by engaging in a series of dialogues with eminent personalities who bring in expertise in different areas of expertise in different domains. And this is an attempt to find answers to many questions. As you know, in the previous episodes of Cradle webinar series, we have been talking about life. We are looking at different facets of life. And today, we are doing something slightly different. When we talk about day, we are reminded day presupposes the existence of night. When we talk about light, we are reminded of darkness. Light presupposes the existence of darkness. When we talk about life, we are also reminded of death. Life presupposes the existence of death. Now, death is a subject that many people try to avoid. Many people are horrified about just by hearing the word death. Human beings aspire to live forever. Human beings want to become immortal. But death is the reality of our life. If death is the reality of our life, it is also an integral part of life. But now the question is, has the humankind been able to conquer death? Can man really become immortal? Has science a cure to death? If science finds a cure to death, do we need God? Do we need spirituality? This is a very intriguing triangle of human being, God, and death. Has science found a cure to death? Or it hasn't found? Do we need God or we don't? To answer these questions, to unravel the mysteries surrounding death and life, we have a very eminent personality with us today. And this personality is a very eminent medical practitioner and also a researcher in the subject of life, death, and spirituality. By profession, he is a professor at the National Medical College, Kolkata, very, very prestigious institution in the country. He's also heading the surgery unit at this institution. He's an eminent orator, eloquent speaker, a researcher, and also, in addition to being a medical practitioner, he is also an accomplished spiritual practitioner. He is none other than Dr. Swarup Chakraborty, who is our guest today, and I would request that he should be on the screen now. Dr. Chakraborty, welcome. Welcome to this edition of Cradle webinar series. We are delighted to have you with us today.
Thank
Namaskar.
you. Namaskar.
Dr. Chakraborty, I know that you have done immense amount of research in this space and you are a practitioner. You have seen life and death very, very closely, being a medical practitioner yourself. And our audience is really keen to hear from you, listen to you, understand some of these very complex questions surrounding death. So, Dr. Chakraborty, I think I would like to begin by asking you a very fundamental question. When we're talking about death, I think a lot of research around death suggests that the primary cause of death is disease. And I think the World Health Organization report says more than 80% of all the deaths that take place are because of diseases. So we'd like to hear from you, understand from you, what are the primary causes of disease? While everybody wants to remain healthy, why we get crippled why we come under the grip of diseases? What are the root causes, the primary causes of disease?
Thank you for asking such a pertinent question. I'd be glad to inform you all that as a medical practitioner and as a normal human being, I have been coming across life and death in the most practical way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And as I feel that it is the deviation from the normal procedures of personal hygiene that is the root cause of all the maladies that we face, including those that we term as congenital or inheritable, even those. In fact, if we visit the Indian Code of Conduct, we will find that seers all down from the ancient times, they have been giving utmost importance to this level of personal hygiene, right up to the present, whom we call as fulfiller the best. Have you heard the name of Sri Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra? Yes. And possibly he is the man who has described the various levels of personal hygiene. As a doctor, we mainly deal with the physical aspects, but it includes in totality the physical, mental, and spiritual aspect, all the three epitomized as a conglomerated global self. And this is what we call as our self. We may be diseased right from our mental aspect, but physically healthy, and we will face the consequence of maladies or diseases. We might be mentally as well as physically quite healthy as we decipher, but we may find something lacking in ourselves, the drive. the will, the push to trudge along during times of obstacles that we frequently face, each one of us. And that is where we are lacking behind in spiritual health. Possibly the World Health Organization, after a lot of discussions way back in the last century, finally decided that it is not only the physical, mental, and the social aspects of health, but also the spiritual aspects of health that needs to be considered finally before telling that a person is free from disease or infirmary.
Okay. Okay. I'm experiencing some latency while you were speaking. Maybe your network could be a bit slow at the moment. But
Now am
let's
I
see.
audible?
Yeah, yeah, it's much better now. Much better now. But
Okay,
Dr.
okay.
Chakraborty, very profound insights. I think this is really, really. I think you have talked about the triangle, and you have talked about physical, mental, and spiritual health. Now, moving on and continuing with the discussion, you talked about physical and mental health. I would like to ask you the next question about mental health, mental well-being. Again, what are the primary causes of lack of mental well-being or wellness?
Yeah, mind is possibly the fastest thing that we in our life come across. It is impossible to catch or control it. There is a
That's true.
terminology, yeah, there is a terminology in the Indian scriptures and also in all sorts of religious sects, something called mantra. So the basic root meaning or dhatu meaning, which we call in Hindi or Bengali or in Indian dialect. So the root meaning of mantra is man comes the mind and tra means trata or the savior, the savior of the mind. That means mind needs to be saved. It needs to
Yeah.
be saved. Yeah. Otherwise, the mind can drive us. All that we face nowadays in the society is just because our mind wishes to do this. My mind wish that I become the richest man. It is all the mind. My mind wishes that I become the first boy and all the other students in my class should get less marks. Not that all along with me become first, but others will get less mark and I should get more. And this is inculcated right from the family. It is the parents we will find nowadays teaching the children that you are supposed to get the highest marks. It is the wishes of the parents that they want the children to accomplish. The wishes of the parents. This leads to stressful mind situations right from the start of the life. But when we grow up, like you are a great stalwart in your field, and I know you personally being quite accomplished as a man of organization. Can you tell me, Mr. Mohapatra, is there a single work that can be done alone?
Not at all. I
Not
think
at
we're
all.
living in an
So you need
interdependent world.
exactly. But when we seek the results, we never think of that. There is a small interesting story of, as I was telling, of Sri Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra. Now, if you happen to go, or all the audience, any one of all of us that we have gathered today, when we happen to go in a part of Jharkhand, a state of India, there is a place called Devgarh. And there we find the grandson of Sri Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra. Now, This grandson of Sri Sri Thakur, Acharya Dev we call him, during his teen, when he was a teenager, he was an accomplished boxer. He used to play the knife and the lathi, or what we call as the staff, with lot of accomplishment. So once upon a time, there was a rather competition, and in the competition he stood first. So all the followers had gathered to inform Sri Sri Thakur, his grandfather, that your grandson has become first in this competition. In the meantime, the grandson just arrived in front of Thakur and kneeled down to pay his obeisance. Thakur blessed his grandson, telling, Dadu Bhai, that is a talk of love to grandson. Dadu Bhai, you are not supposed to become first alone, but you are supposed to become first as a group along with all the persons that you live your friendship with. So, do we find
So
usually that
profound.
so profound? So, these are the teachings that we need to inculcate, and we start from our family life, and we'll find that the maladies of the mind, maladies of the body, and the spirit will slowly and slowly delinquish or just go away.
This is really beautiful. I think you have talked about that man should not aspire to become successful alone. Man
Exactly.
should strive for collective success. I think this is really, really profound. And this
I
will
suppose
actually lead to
just a minute, Mr. Mahapatra. I'm interrupting. Suppose,
no problems.
yeah, suppose I have become a great surgeon in my field, but I have not been able to make at least a batch of good surgeons as my students. So when I fall ill, who will be the person who will be operating upon me? I'll get no one, because I have not created a batch. So, in order that we survive ourselves, we should rather make a batch of good men. This is for our survival, individual survival. Even if we want to take care of the environment, that is for my survival. And this is the main aspect of life. We'll talk about death, main aspect of life.
Yeah. I think it's really profound. You're giving really very practical, logical examples through beautiful stories. We'll take the discussion forward. I think it's a very, very interesting discussion, dialogue that's going on at the moment. Taking the discussion on death forward, we know that the primary cause of death is disease. But what if we say death itself is a disease? How do we justify such a statement?
Exactly. If we go through certain scriptures, holy scriptures, just for not as a holy scripture at all, but for the penchant of going through books, then we'll find we can get it in even in the internet. Something called Garud Puran. So
Okay.
in Garud Puran, yeah, Garud Puran, Garud was the uh, Vahan of Lord Vishnu. So he is down, yes, whatever he imbibed through his experiences of life, and that has been moving through centuries as Garud Puran. So in that one, we will find that if a person leads a natural and normal life where he does not think ill of anything, number two, he spends his life in a just manner. So in that case, each and everybody during the time of the death, there is a prodrome. We find that with the present seer, the fulfiller the best, Sri Sri Thakur, compounding on that to the fullest. Thakur says that prior to death, there is a chakra or a circular motion that comes within all ourself. And in that circular motion, we panoramically see all that we have done in our entire life as a chakra. And this is the hidden sins, good things, all that is unknown to the society but known to me. Is all, it all comes out just like a cinematic bioscope. Basically, Thakur says this is called the Gupta Chitra, what we call as Chitragupta. We know that Yamraja has Chitragupta as his assistant, and Thakur says that it is the Gupta Chitra, hidden self, that comes across. And this gives us a third eye. So we start compounding on the facts. Even those who have in a scientific society, we find that near-death experiences in various intensive care unit patients, in head injury patients, and this has come out in scientific journals that each of them tell that I can go through and see the entire life, whatever I have done. It comes like a cycle. So this is beyond doubt. Whatever Thakur is telling is compounded to some extent, or rather to a larger extent, by the present day science. So when this occurs, we tend to get ourselves relieved from all our miseries, all our complexes, and go to a higher plane. Why that is important? Because at the moment of death, the plane or the mental bhav status where we are residing, Thakur says that it is that status we carry along in our spirit life or the soul life. Suppose I have committed a suicide. Just prior to the suicide, Thakur says that it is desperation or despairiness to the utmost, where the person feels that there is no other alternative. And then only he goes for ending the life. But as soon as he puts the noose around, he realizes that it is easier to live. Why am I taking such a decision? It is because of that whenever there is a foul play or murder and hanging over in a fan, we go for autopsy, we will find that there is no instance that is found within the mucous membrane of the throat and the laryngeal cavity where the patient is trying to get relieved, trying to save. It is only present only in cases of suicide. That means that the patient is trying to understand that this is my folly. So with that bhav or thought of desperation, he is living this present material world. So if he has to come down, whenever in any gametic marriage or a husband and wife are uniting with a sense of desperation. Do we find any husband wife uniting with a sense of desperation? We don't find.
Very rare. Yeah.
Very rare. But rather we
Yeah.
find sense of desperation in cases of rape, in cases of molestation, and so those soul can come down over there. In Shastras, in all throughout in holy place, even in the Christ has told that those who come out of this type of marriage, those souls, they are usually bad souls. I mean, bad souls means they have an inclination for bad activities. I can be educated by my parents to the fullest so that I become the manager of Reserve Bank of India, general manager of Reserve Bank of India. But if the innate soul characteristics within me is to commit sin, then even at that level I shall commit a scam. but I can be a farmer, but at the same time, I may run behind a scooter person riding a scooter who took some vegetables for me and left his money purse just to tell him that, Babu, this is your money purse, kindly take it back. I come home and my wife is asking me, have you got anything? No, I have this minimum. What shall we eat? The children, they are all starving. It's okay. God will give us another day. So how is it possible that these two type of personality? So this is what is called good health, good eugenics, good marriage, and some extent in science this has been explained.
Dr. Chakraborty, I'm really amazed by the scientific analysis that you have given about death. You have very vividly drawn a picture of what happens when a man is dying. That is so powerful because man does not remember how he died in his past life. Um, but I think seers like Sri Sri Thakur Nukul Chandra have explained how man dies, what happens during death, what are the events that happen, what is the mental state of the human being. This is so powerful. And interestingly, science is silent about our education system doesn't answer these questions. Science doesn't has not been able to answer these questions. It may find answers to these questions sometime in future. But probably spiritual guides like Sri Sri Thakur and Nukul Chandra have answered such questions. Dr. Chakraborty, I'm seeing very excellent comments and feedback on what you're sharing. I think there are some very interesting comments which are coming from our audience. They're liking what you're saying. Taking the discussion forward, Dr. Chakraborty, you talked about what happens during death. You talked about the mental state of the man, of human being during death, and how it plays a role in shaping the next life of the human being. Now, we understand what happens during death. Now, the question is, can we take charge of death? Can we take control over death? Is it possible?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
very clearly, loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. If we are in charge of our
Were you able
life,
to hear my question?
exactly, I heard you.
Okay,
We are in charge of our life, then we are in charge of our everything. And death is nothing but a part of our life. Death, as death, why do we fear? We fear because it is unknown to us. Whichever thing is unknown to us, which we don't see, we always fear. When we are walking through a path, suppose a road, and there is no electric current, all of a sudden there is a load shedding. It was all lighted up, and I was moving, trudging along, walking, no problem. Suddenly, the electricity went off, and fear enters me. Why? Because I can't see anything. So, whatever is unseen,
true.
yes, unseen causes fear as a reaction from us. Fear is a reaction of our mind, and our body, when the body supports it, then we become succumbed to that fearful circumstance. Death, as you were asking in your question, if we understand how to live, how to live happily each moment of our life, then I think we need not worry about death, because we can have a glorious death. We can welcome it. Ancient seers in writings we find that they have described death as a station and life as a continuous journey. But since we have not experienced this, we think that this is the end of everything and we don't know what lies after. Each and every moment of the life, do we really live? If we don't live, then we are dying each and every moment. So before we are medically dead, we are mentally dead, we are socially dead. Death is medically described as a loss of reaction of that self to the environment. So think this way, let us think in this manner, that if we are not reacting ourselves to whatever is going around, including ourselves, then we are already dead. We are dying, we are not living the moments of life. Then will you not call this a diseased state?
Absolutely. I
Definitely,
can.
it is a diseased state. Rather, it is the cause of all the disease that follow. There is a boom of hypertensive diseases. Who says it? All the American, Indian associations, drug associations, they are making lots of millions and millions of pounds and sterlings and dollars because people are succumbing to the stressful activities. Why? They are dying prior to the original or real death. You were just in the previous question that you were asking me, after that you told that science is silent regarding all these things. Do we know that science is also, rather, it is channelized by brains? I'll give you a small example. We all hear of laparoscopic gallbladder surgery, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, microsurgery. You ask any patient and they will say that I have gone through and consulted Dr. Google and doctor, I want a microsurgery. This is a common thing. But as a
Yes.
practicing surgeon, let me tell you that there is no benefit that laparoscopic surgery holds over open surgery for gallbladder. Do we know why it got started initially? It got started initially because in the United States, where the health comes under the insurance for all the citizens, it was seen that all the citizens had to stay. They were staying in the hospital for more than 5 days, 7 days, 10 days, and the state or the government was incurring all the expenses. So, in order to cut it short, a procedure was sought, and this was how laparoscopic surgery was born, to help the
Oh,
insurance. So, will you call that science is always telling you the truth? Science is apparent. Even the science that we follow is apparent. Be a student, one of my classmates, he failed to pass through a certain semester because he had told his examiner that for a gastric ulcer, he is supposed to prescribe antibiotics. The examiner scorned him like anything and told him that you prepare to come after 6 months. That means fail. But now,
okay.
if an examiner, as I am now, if my student or examinee does not tell that antibiotic is needed, he will fail. So, in a span of
Oh,
25 to 30 years, antibiotic in gastric ulcer, the student fails. He said that antibiotic is needed in gastric ulcer, and after 30 years, somebody says that antibiotic is not needed in gastric ulcer, he fails. So,
okay.
we are always propounding and improving. Science is an eye. So it is always possible that with the two naked eyes, whatever we see, if we put a loop, we will see better. We put a microscope, we will see a lot better. So somewhat like that. That does not mean that microbes are not moving in this environment. If I put two microscopes here, I'll see trillions and trillions of microscopes swimming around me. Okay.
Yeah, I think this is interesting. So you said something very interesting. You said we are scared because we can't see the unseen. But if we
Exactly.
start seeing the unseen, then we'll not be scared. So, which essentially means if we become aware, we'll be able to overcome fear.
Exactly.
We'll be able to overcome fear of death as well.
Death.
My next question is, but why human beings uh, want to avoid death? You talked about people can die a glorious death, but why human
Exactly.
beings try to avoid death?
Yeah. See, why do we want to leave? There is something within us that is innate. Everyone in the entire universe, a normal person, if asked the question that do you want to leave, I think 100% will tell, 100 out of 100, that yes, I do definitely want to leave. And
Yes.
if you ask the question, do you want to die, I think 100 out of 100 will tell that I don't want to die. Now let us change the circumstances. All around myself, there are not only obstacles, but there are situations which is perilous for my life and being, for my being and becoming. And now I am asked the question, do you want to live? My answer would be, I'd rather prefer to die. Okay. Now the same circumstance, suppose there is a situation, as for example, take into consideration, I am a soldier, I am fighting in Kargil against the Pakistani invasion, trying to save my country and motherland. And my senior asks me, are you ready to die for India? My answer would be, yes, I am ready. Is not it?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Exactly. So none of us want a death that is infamous, but we are not sure of the life that we are living. We are not sure whether we are happy. We are not sure whether we are contented. We are not sure of anything. Wants drive us. It is not that we drive our wants. Wants drive us. As a result of which, we fear death and we don't want to die because we want that more and more and more. Somewhere it is going to end. It is going to make me happy. I did not become happy. I am not yet contented. I want something more. Even do we know that we perform the Shraddha ceremony? Shraddha. In English, we call it funeral, but basically, funeral is not the English translation of Shraddha. Shraddha is a funeral is rather paying respect, and Shraddha actually is a ceremony in which our Pitri Purush, that means all our ancestors, are given food. The soul, the departed soul that comes out from our body, always tries to enter again the body. Why? Because as soon as the soul comes out, the soul understands. It is not what I am telling, but it is what is written down in the scriptures. As soon as the soul comes out, it starts thinking that yes, these are the places where I have committed sin, and let me be given a second chance so that I can rectify myself. But life is only for once, and we don't get a second chance. So when we are up to our work system, day to day work, it is always, Thakur says, it is always better to think that life is single, a singular thing for myself. Whatever I have to do in this life. And Thakur says, whenever sorrows and sufferings start taking the upper hand, then we can always think that there is something beyond life. And possibly at that place, I'll get some sort of solace. Why? Because thinking in this manner can make our mind cool, help us concentrate in our work, and many a times, as a frequent driver of a car, I have the experience that even in the worst of weather circumstances, if I keep my head cool and go on trudging along, a time comes when I can see the finish line. I have reached my destination.
This is really, really profound. Absolutely profound. I also like something that you said, that a soldier at the frontier says, I can die for my country. So there are circumstances when you are faced with a cause, one would be willing to die. So one can live for a cause and one can die for a cause. I think
Exactly,
that's
and
very powerful.
And Thakur says that it is tougher to live for a cause. It is easier to die for the cause. Thakur always says that, yeah, it is tougher to live. I can die for my lover, but I am leaving for my lover. That is a more exponential exposition of my love towards my lover.
And even if that living also could mean suffering sometimes, suffering and
Exactly.
sorrow. Yeah, but that's the
Exactly.
beauty. Yeah. I think living for somebody, for someone, I think this is something very powerful. And you also talked earlier about it, living for a living ideal in your life. That was I found that very, very powerful, very insightful. Would you like to throw a little light on that? What is the
I'll
important
give you
significance of
I'll
a
give you my
living ideal?
personal experience.
Yeah.
I'll give you my personal experience. Whatever today I'm discussing with you and all is rather a fragmented tits and bits of how my guru would have expressed. So, at the very outset, let me tell you before answering that one that I request each and every one of you that once the pandemic situation becomes okay, please try to make a visit to the state of Jharkhand in India, Devghar, and just have a glimpse of Acharya Dev and my Guru Dev over there. Interact with him as a normal human being, and that interaction will make you love him in your own way, because each and every one of us is different, and so the way of embracing him is also different. So as I was telling my experience, suppose I have been posted in Kolkata National Medical College since 2014, so it is into
Okay.
my 7th year. I stay approximately 140 kilometers away from Kolkata in the township of Midnapur. But roughly 4 days a week, I ply driving a car, a personal car, up and down. I reach to my place of job, operations, patient seeing, classes, and then again I come back. All this thing, I wonder that if I would have done it just by loving myself and by thinking that I'll take it up as a challenge, then I would have stopped just by the end of 1 year, thinking that yes, no one of my colleagues have done 1 year of such 280 kilometers per day. Let me call it a day. This is my extent because this is what I wish, and now I am contented. But since my guru wished that you fly from Midnapur to Kolkata every day, and this is what I wish. That is what my guru told me. And I want to see the contented and pleasing smile of my guru. This is called a love center. So when you have a love center, in order to please your love center, you can stretch yourself to limits that you know not that you could have been stretched upon. And this is my personal experience. That's 7 years, and I don't feel tired. Rather, I feel that all along throughout the track that I move along up to Kolkata and back to Midnapur, in between, I have developed lots of places where I've developed good friends, good places of visit, many of my spiritual brethren over there. It's been a journey that almost now, basically, I can tell you that it's somewhat like going for a long drive. Going for a long drive. This is the difference when you have a love center.
So driving 1,000 kilometers a week, year after year, unimaginable. A normal human being cannot think of it. One needs that force, that energy, that strength within to be able to do that.
No, 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 no.
What I'm hearing,
That is
that a
no,
living ideal.
Mahapatrada, there is nothing to do with normalcy over here. Just take into consideration what a mother who is totally uneducated can do for a child. Just out of
Wonderful,
pure for her child. She can stretch her limits. She can do whatever. It's somewhat like that. Just somewhat like that. And I think this is normal life. What we think as normal human beings, actually we are not normal. This is what is normal life as Thakur has depicted, shown, and
wonderful,
all throughout his life.
wonderful, wonderful. I think what I'm really deciphering your narrative is it is your love for that person, that
Exactly.
personality, that loving personality, that living ideal, that infuses immense amount of energy and strength within you, and then you can make impossible possible. I think that's what I'm inferring from what you are saying. And if you have that, living ideal at the center of your life, if you are attached to him, inclined towards him, you can do everything for him. You can make impossible possible. You can achieve anything in your life. I think that's the message that you are trying to give. Extremely powerful. Very
Can I
interesting.
just have one more point over
Yes,
here?
yes, please. Yes,
In our
please.
history texts, in our history textbooks, we have gone through the life history of Chhatrapati Shivaji. But after coming to my guru, I learned the nuances and the focus point of his life. An incident Thakur used to always tell that after conquering all the Mughal forts, bearing one or two, he had crossed through more than 300 steps above in the rotational manner, reached the top of a fort in where his mother, Jijabai, possibly mother of Chhatrapati Shivaji, and going towards and kneeling.
I think we lost you for a few seconds.
Uh, just a minute.
Oh, sure.
Can you now? It's okay.
Oh, yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah. So the focus point was that, according to Thakur, was Chhatrapati Shivaji has crossed more than 300 steps above, climbing up, kneeled down in front of his mother, and was telling that, Ma, just look, I have conquered all these Mughal forts to please you. And Shivaji's mother turns back round, looks towards Shivaji, and tells that I can see two Mughal flags over there. Shivaji immediately, instead of resting, comes down, seeks the blessing of his Guru Ramdas, and goes on top of the horse. So, what love can do, this is a glaring example. This is a glaring example, but we never study in this manner the history. It should be taught to the children of our society in this manner, the focus points of the history.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I think this is a very, very profound, discussion, very engaging. I wish that we go on talking, but I know that our time is limited. I would just ask one last question. I request you to briefly answer that, and then we'll quickly move on to our audience. We have a lot of very interesting personalities in our audience who have some questions for you, and then we would definitely would like to give them some time. My last question to you before I move on to the audience would be, when we talk about death, we know that on death, the life energy abandons the physical body. After separation, does the life energy remain in pristine form? That's something I would like to hear from you or know from you.
Well, I am still living. I don't think I am yet qualified to answer that.
But I
But
consider
well,
you to be an expert on this subject.
but well, definitely there is, as a man of science, I would tell that yes, there is something. Definitely, there is something that resides within each one of us. And once that thing goes away, then we call that person medically dead. Now, if we go for the death rates and the birth rates all throughout the world, we'll find that they are not similar. That also gives us an idea that there is some amount of soul that has not yet come down.
Oh, okay.
I just want to tell these two things rather than going into some sort of controversial discussion, because some of the person might tell that there is nothing. Well, if you tell there is nothing, no pristine life, at least you can tell that there is something within you and you can always make that thing the best, isn't it?
True. Yeah.
Exactly. But have anybody wondered that mother and father are the same, and there are five children born having almost similar genetic makeup, but
Right.
all five of them have different mental faculties.
So
Now,
true.
I think we as a man of science have been able to answer that. We are not able to answer various things regarding twin and quadruplets, but we are studying on this. And if we follow a path that is laid down by the seers of our life, right up to the present fulfiller the best, I think we will educate ourselves in order to put ourselves into a research position for your question, for answering your question.
Wonderful. I think a fabulous deliberation, great insights from you, Dr. Chakraborty. We would now open up for questions. May I request the first question to be on the screen, please? There is a question. This question is from Tanaya Chaudhary, and her question is: can faith actually heal? Is there a science in faith? That's a very interesting question. We'd like to hear from you.
Definitely, exactly, because it has been found that healing is basically regulated by various neurohormonal pathways of our human body. And these neurohormonal pathways can be boosted up, they can be flagged up and flagged down according to our level of faith. Faith, again, is never inert or abstract. What we think as faith is basically inert and abstract. But when we come to such solved persons in life like Sri Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa Dev, Jesus Christ, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Muhammad, and the present seer, Sri Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra, then we find that faith is the result of what we do and have in our daily actions. Suppose I have been listening to whatever you tell me to do, and I have found that whatever you told me to do has come out beneficial for me. So, out of this work culture, I have developed what is termed as faith for you. Now, I have put myself in a position where I am suffering from severe pain abdomen. I go to a physician. The physician puts some routine tests, ultrasound abdomen, and then tells me that yes, you can go for surgery. Why? Because there is a gastric ulcer. I think it needs to be operated. I look upon you. You, a man of science, tell me that no, I'll give you medicines and you can continue with that. Now, your medicines can make me totally cured if I have top faith in you, if I have total faith in you. So, healing is complemented by faith. Medicines and
Awesome.
faith are always complementary. If the patient has full faith in the doctor or the physician or the surgeon, that patient we have seen through randomized trials heals much better as compared to a patient who is skeptical, doubtful about the doctor or the system. He usually comes up, he or she comes up with various complications, non-healing wounds, various things, and it has been seen by all of us.
Awesome. I liked what you said about faith. The definition of faith, what you said, faith is never inert, it is never abstract. So essentially, faith is active. There are
Exactly.
a couple of more questions. I will request the next question to be on the screen. We have a question from Swati Sarkar. Is there any way realistically to prolong life mortality through support of mantra? Then which type of mantra or vibration? How can our adherence and motivation to our guru or coach helps in these aspects? This is a great question.
Yeah, it's a long question. I think I'll give a short answer.
Sure.
Guru is a terminology which means heavy, heavier. The opposite word for guru is laghu. Laghu means lighter. So the person who in my life is the heaviest in all circumstances in my priority list is my guru. That person is my guru. If I have accepted, suppose Acharya Dev, given Acharya Dev this position, then Acharya Dev is my guru. This is the first thing about guru. Now, this guru or coach can only handle me and make the best out of me if I surrender. You have seen uh, in Kolkata various places where they make the idol of goddess Durga.
Yes.
Then it is never made out of a solidified clay, but it is always made out of this semi-solid, partially liquid, partially solid. In that state, when the clay is there, that means the clay has surrendered to the hands of the person who is creating the image of goddess Durga. So that is my duty. I have to surrender myself to that guru or coach. That guru or
Mhm.
coach has to be a solved person. Now the question arises, how do you understand in my lifetime who is the solved person?
Right.
Yeah, it is exactly like what our mind says when we go to a cloth factory or a cloth shop. We go through the dresses, we look at the people we look at all the customers, and then our mind takes it up, whether it is a fraud shop or a genuine shop.
Right.
So our senses tell us, this is what we gather from our senses, and this is innate. God has already given us. You tell God or you tell the primal force, whatever it is, but it is innate within us. We can understand.
True.
With those senses, we can easily pick up this solved person in my life. And when we practice this mantra from him, loving him, then we find that the terminology of concentration is born. Concentration comes from two words, cons and centration. Cons means with, and centration means center. Center is the ideal. So when I am with my ideal, I am in a tuned up position or in attention. At tension, Sri Thakur tells. You pull a thread like this, it is at tension. Thakur tells that all the vibrations you can understand on this one. If it is lax, then you cannot pick up the vibrations. So attention or attention with the Lord. So in those circumstances, mantra acts. And there are various types of mantras, various like Dhunattak, Dhanattak, Bhavattak, various types of nam. And what we get in the fulfiller, the best of the present age, Sri Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra, this is the vibrational name, which is the primal source of not only being and becoming, but the existence of entire creation.
This is awesome. Dr. Chakraborty, questions are pouring in, but we are on top of the hour. I don't think we can take many more questions. Just two more questions we'll take. I will humbly request
Okay.
to you that you briefly answer these two questions quickly, and then will conclude thereafter. There is a question from Sri Dhiti Sundar Bhattacharya, and he's saying, please emphasize on the statement, resist death to death.
Yes, resist death to death. First, we have to resist all that is bringing the cause of death of myself and my surroundings or the atmosphere or the environment. Why I told atmosphere? Because I have been driving a car which is way above with your carbon dioxide norms, then I am also leading to death of my atmosphere. So I have to resist death in order to prevent death. I cannot show my love towards death. If I show my towards death, I don't resist death. I think this is the meaning of resist death to death.
Perfect. We'll take the last question. May the last question be put on the screen. Sri Deepak Kumar Das is asking how to enrich the journey beyond our life, meaning when we leave our mortal frame for a journey beyond infinite. Very interesting question.
It's interesting question. It's a debatable long topic, but I would rather answer Deepak Kumar Das. Why should we not enrich our journey not beyond life, our journey of life? First, let us live our life. Are we living the years of our life, or are we injecting life into each year that I am living? If I am injecting life into each moment and year of my life, then definitely we will cherish this journey. Let this be completed, and then we can think about journey beyond life. I have personally not gone there, so I can't answer, but I want to entrench the journey that I am going through the life up to the least, the best.
Dr. Chakti, I'm personally mesmerized and deeply inspired by your very insightful responses to all the questions that we had today. I personally, my knowledge has been enriched with your insights. I think you have really taken us through the cycle of life and birth, life and death, birth and death. What happens during birth? What happens during death? You have unraveled the mysteries surrounding life and death. in very simple yet very impactful and powerful way. At the end, I think what you have really highlighted is the importance of having that love center in your life, the living ideal in your life, or the guru in your life, which will enable you to live your life fully, gain control over death, conquer death, or maybe be in charge of your death. I think Sri Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra describing that personality says, he within whom all resources of the world, knowledge, love, and activity are spontaneous, and by the inclination towards whom the scattered lives of man and all the diversities of the world find a final solution, is the God of men. I think he has given the definition that who is that personality, who is that living ideal, who should be the love center, by inclination towards whom we can find solutions to all our problems, answers to all our questions, our scattered life, and the diversities of this world will find a final solution. Dr. Chakraborty, once again, thank you very much for this beautiful session today. It has been really, really enriching. Thank you, audience. You have been really beautiful, participative. You have asked beautiful questions. Thank you very much for joining us today. Once again, we'll come back next month, yet another interesting topic, trying to unravel the mysteries of life. Till then, we will say goodbye. This video will be available for you to watch it on our social media platforms. Once again, thank you very much, Dr. Chakraborty. Thank you,
Yes,
audience.
Mohapatra, I also wish to tell that it has been an intriguing thing for me. I have never done this type of discussion previously, but I want to, at the last moment, I want to tell every one of you that I have visited many great men, and after visiting those great men, I have felt that I know nothing. But when I have visited Acharya Dev and Sri Sri Orkoduti Chakravarti Babai Dada, the feeling that I got is that I too can do. I think the person in front of whom, when we go, we feel that yes, I too can be, I too can do, is the God of man. That was my.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you very much, Dr. Chakraborty, once again.
Thank you,
And
man.
thank you, everybody. Good night, and see you again.